Hi, Matt. We have about 20 minutes to talk today. I remember last time we talked about UFC, and I was wondering if that's something you'd like to talk to me about again.
I was actually thinking I was going to talk about tutoring today.
That sounds great. What would you like to tell me about tutoring?
Well, there's so many things to talk about tutoring. I was going to talk about this one person that I really love tutoring, but there was this one person that I have. So, to give you a little bit of background about my job, I supervise the math tutors and I help run the online program. And so, the online tutoring program, which is mostly math at this point at Chemeketa.
Mm-hmm.
So, I help run that program. And there's this one student that comes on there, and this student is the most difficult student I have ever worked with. I can't even begin to understand how the student is doing college level work because they come in and they ask me questions and then I ask them questions back and they don't have any understanding of what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been using the service for multiple terms, and so it means they're still enrolled, and I assume they're somehow passing their classes, but they don't even have a basic understanding of any of the material that they're doing. It seems like super frustrating, and it's very, very annoying to try to deal with this person.
I can see the frustration on your face when you're talking about it. You're smirking.
Yeah, it's a smirk of rage because they lack the most basic uh, online etiquette. They'll just come in to my lobby. I'm in a lobby and I just wait for people
Mm-hmm.
to come in, and then I help them when they come in the lobby, and they'll just come in and they'll say like, hey, how are you doing today? Introduce myself, trying to find out what they're doing, and they will just totally disregard everything I'm saying, and they'll just like, here's what I'm working on, help me with this, and then I'll try to explain to them. A lot of times they come in and ask for help with classes that I'm not qualified to tutor in and I don't know very much about, and then I will tell them like, hey, I can't really help you with these classes, I'm not really sure. And every day they'll come in with the same classes and ask for help, and I'll tell them the same answer every day. It's very frustrating.
It sounds like it must be really frustrating.
Yes, it's wearing on my patience quite a bit. I don't know how to deal with the student because they just keep coming back and trying the same thing over and over again, and I tell them the same thing over and over again, and then they come back and try it the next day, and I don't. It's very hard to deal with the student.
You keep making this motion whenever you talk about it over and over again.
Yes, it is a repetitive thing. I can see every once in a while, a student will come in and ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't help you, and then normally they're like, oh, thanks for trying though, and then they'll find somebody who can help them. But this student just keeps coming back.
So, go ahead.
And it just wastes my time and wastes other people's time, and I don't know.
So it sounds like you're most frustrated that they keep doing this, even though they know that you aren't qualified for that.
Well, they keep doing it, and then every once in a while I will be able to help them with a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they'll just like leave halfway through the session, and or will just stop responding to me halfway through the session, and then it's really frustrating if other people are waiting, because then I have to determine whether or not that they've left, or if they're thinking about an answer, or if they're just really, really rude and inconsiderate of myself and other people's time and efforts. And it's very, very annoying.
How does it feel talking to me about this?
Talking about this individual just kind of irritates me. It kind of makes me a little bit frustrated and stressful point in my day is trying to help a student.
You say that you're really stressed out talking about this and frustrated by it, and yet you're kind of almost smiling when you talk about it.
Well, it's like it's just ironic. Like, I love helping all these students, and then the students I really love helping when they come in, a couple of times, and then they'll get help and they'll figure it out, and then they'll do wonderful, and then the student that I have struggles with will come back repeatedly, and it's not productive for anybody, and it's wasting everybody's time, but they're coming back. It's just kind of ironic. It's just one of those things.
I really appreciate you opening up to me about your frustrations.
Yeah, it's one of the lesser favorite things about my job is working with a student. Normally online tutoring is pretty fun. It's a good experience.
I've never really participated in the online tutoring, so I can't really say anything about that. But I know in prior experiences, I have tried to help people in different classes. And yeah, it's definitely frustrating when there's nothing that you can really do about it, and yet they keep asking you for help.
Yeah. That's how I feel about the student, but it's not even. It's like my job to try to help them, and so I'm like obligated to ask them even though I know what the answer is.
Right.
I have to ask them like what are they working on, how can I help them, and then it's the same like laundry list of questions I have to ask them every day. Every day I get the same response, and it's like, well, that was productive. Glad I could help. Sorry, maybe you could try a different tutor. But
You're looking down a lot when you talk about this.
it's it's uncomfortable to talk about because I really don't like working with the student.
Unless you're not making eye contact.
It's really yeah, it's just kind of makes me upset, and I don't really like to think about it a whole lot. So
You don't like to be upset?
no, I don't like this. I don't like thinking about this student. Try to stay, try to stay happy and positive, and I love my job, but this student makes me love my job a little bit less, and so I try to not focus on the student as much as other aspects of my job. But
What makes you uncomfortable talking about this student?
a lot of bad memories with the student, and a lot of times, yeah, just a lot of bad memories with the student and not working out and it being really frustrating.
Bad memories?
Yeah, like working with the student, or before I really understood what was happening, I tried to help the student a lot more, and it was just disastrous. And the student would just get confused, and I would just get frustrated and upset, and like mad at myself and mad at the student, and it was just unpleasant.
Mad at yourself?
Well, because I was like, well, I shouldn't have done that. I should have just, told the student that I probably wasn't going to be able to help, or that I should have just, known what they were working on, even though it's like not supposed to know what they're working on, but I try to help them anyway. And so yeah, just some bad experiences from that. It didn't do as well as I could have. So.
So you don't feel like you've done everything that you could have?
No, I do. I feel like I did more than I should have, and it was wasted, I suppose. Like there's nothing I can do. Like the student is completely beyond my helping. It's not my position to help the student. I've helped the student in the ways that I can help the student. I can't help them anymore. I've done everything I can. But there's a lot of times where I did more than I should have, and it was just a waste of time and energy. So it's a little frustrating.
I appreciate you telling me how frustrating, and I appreciate you opening up to me and telling me that you feel like you've wasted your time with that, and you're kind of beating yourself up over it.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say beating myself up. I mean, it was a good learning experience, I suppose. It was just more really stressful than anything, because like I know what's gonna happen, and I know the student's gonna be upset that I can't help them. I know I'm gonna tell them the same thing I tell them every day, and it's just kind of like a process. It's like, well, here it is. It's gonna happen. And then it happens. Well, I'm glad that's over with. Then I move on and actually help other people, because that's really why I like tutoring, is to help people. And then the student comes in and it's like sort of taunting me every day, like, oh, I need help and you can't help me. And I'm gonna rub it in your face, and then I know, let's move on.
Yeah.
We've covered this ground before.
So I just, can you clarify something for me? Earlier I heard you use the word waste.
Yeah.
Like you found it to be a waste, and yet you just now said that it was a good learning experience.
Yeah, it was, but at the same time, I could have been more prudent and learned sooner from it. And there was a lot of times, I was trying to help the student, and there's other people waiting for my help, and like I clearly couldn't help the student, and that just took away from time that I could have used to help students who actually would have benefited from it. And so there's a lot of wasted time like that was just sort of frivolously being spent on nothing.
So it's kind of a waste for the other students.
It was a waste for the other students and a waste for me because I didn't, the whole process is sort of a patience building experience, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily worth the time. But,
what makes it a patience building experience?
well, it's just like, well, I know it's going to happen. I'm just going to be patient. If I get upset, like, there's nothing that's going to change if I get upset. Like, oh, a student comes in again. I'm so upset right now. I'm so angry at the student. So frustrated. Like, nothing's going to change if I just, like, do that. So I just, like, okay, here's a student. Hi, how you doing? No, can't really help you out. I'm sorry. Check with somebody else. And so I just kind of have to be patient and just, like, ignore it and let it happen. But
I keep hearing you say frustrated or frustrating.
yeah, it's very frustrating. Most frustrating person I've worked with out of almost 4 years of tutoring and 2 years in retail. Most frustrating person I've worked with.
In all that time?
Yeah. Yeah, just because of the number of times that I've encountered this student.
I know. I work retail, and I know that you worked retail in the same place. I can't imagine what that must be like to have somebody more frustrating than the people that I think we've both dealt with.
It's like somebody coming into your store and like, hey, I'm looking for a Nike coat. You have a Nike coat in a size medium, and you're like, nah, this is Eddie Bauer. We have Eddie Bauer. And like, no, I want a Nike coat. Show me where your Nike coats are. You're like, well, I don't have a Nike, and then you go and show them all your coats that you have in the store, but that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for a Nike coat. And then every day of the week they come in and they're like, hey, let me check out your Nike coats. And you're like, don't have any Nike coats here, lady. Don't have any Nike coats here, guy. Don't have any shoes for you, kid. And then they come back every day and they ask you the same question.
Right.
And instead of just being like, oh, sorry, wrong store, then they insist on you taking them around and giving them a tour of the store anyway. And it's just like,
Yeah.
I can imagine what a waste of time that would feel like for you. And you'd be like, I could be helping other clients. I could be doing other things. And it's just like
Absolutely.
daily ritual you have to go through. So.
It means a lot to me that you took the time to put that in a way that you know that I can understand it.
Well, I felt you should share my my misery because it was, yeah. But anyway, it's just a small part of my job, so.
How does it feel hearing me say that I appreciate that from you?
Well, it feels like if you care, you're actually like listening to the things that I'm saying, just instead of just sort of me talking and then you're like spacing off and not listening to what I'm saying, I suppose. So, but yeah, she's a small part of my job, and the rest of it's pretty good. I really like the things that I can do. Really like helping people.
You like helping people?
Yeah, it's a really fulfilling part of my job is being able to help people with math, and just like when they get it, they're like, oh, I get it right now. It's so awesome, and you can just like see them like start to understand a little bit of how things work. Like, yes.
I can see the excitement when you talk about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was helping somebody today after the student came in, and I was like, I don't really think I'm going to be able to help you, just like every other day. And the student left, this other student came in, and I was helping them. And they weren't understanding. I spent like half an hour on them with this one problem, and finally they got it. They're like, oh my goodness, I finally get it now. And they just like, I can't see them when I'm online, but I could just like see their face, like the light bulb goes on, and they just like, oh, I got it. Thank you so much. And they were so happy, and I was so happy. And everybody was happy, and it wasn't like a big, huge, mind-blowing concept, but just to see them understand a little bit more of the way things work and interwoven, it was pretty cool.
You got a lot more animated when you're talking about the excitement.
Yeah, well, I like to dwell on the good moments more than the bad moments, so I try to remember those ones more. And there's a lot of them, so I really like the job. But yeah, a lot of good things happen on the online program. I'm really glad I got to be a part of that and help it grow and help develop it. And,
I really enjoy hearing the good aspects of your work.
I mean, everybody can complain about their job, but you gotta be thankful for the good things. So
Absolutely.
I try to do that with my job. So was able to give a presentation about the whole e-tutoring thing at a conference at um, University of Portland a couple weeks ago, and that was really cool too.
Tell me about
And like
it.
other people, always like people who are professors and work at universities and have these tutoring centers, or some guy from California who was on the trying to figure out what he was going to do with his college because of some laws that got passed about the equity of online education down there. They're trying to catch that up to speed with their in-person education and how they can make that happen. And so like all these people like are really interested in changing and have the power to change, and we're going to make decisions, and try to better their school and better their education around in their community. Was basically what it was. It was about tutoring in particular, and just like being able to go and present at that and have like all these people like come and like listen to the things that I had to say. And I haven't. It's not that I've been e-tutoring that long. I've only been doing it for about a year. But I was able to present on that and give my opinions and really sort of influence some of the decisions that these people are going to be making in the future. It was really it was a really good experience. I was really thankful that they wanted my opinion on that.
So you've only been doing it for a year, and yet they wanted you to present and have such a big position?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty involved in it. I really enjoy it. And a lot of the other, I'm a coordinator for it. So I basically, I'm coordinator. So I like run it for the school. I'm really involved, and I'm in touch with the people who make it happen, and I help make sure that our school is a part of it, and our students are using it, and all this sort of stuff. And so I really enjoy that, and take it seriously, and that's like one of the main things about my job I really enjoy. And I went to a conference and met a bunch of the other coordinators, and a lot of the other coordinators, it was more of a duty that was put upon them, and they didn't really want it.
Right.
It was more of like a side burden that they had to pick up, like, oh, okay, I guess I'll do this thing too. But I really like have taken it seriously, and I really enjoy it, and put more into it than most of them have. So I have more of it, and also a lot of the coordinators aren't. They aren't tutors. So I'm a tutor and I'm a coordinator, so I get to do the tutoring on the program, and then I also get to see it from the administrative, supervisory side, like how things work and what makes all the little gears turn, and then also being like the one, being the gear that's turning, So that kind of gave me a unique perspective that a lot of other people don't necessarily have about it. So, and I've done a lot of, not super like hardcore research, but I've spent a lot of hours researching. Our students can give, any student who has a session with a tutor can give feedback about it.
Right.
And as a coordinator, I can see that. And so I spent many hours like watching every session that's had a review for the past year. I went back and I've looked at it, and I've sat down, kind of like, kind of treated each one like a case study, and really, these sessions can last between like 15 and probably 45 minutes. And so I've sat down and watched everyone a couple times and really like taken some notes, and like if the student said the session went well, I'll try to be like sitting there and like listening, and what does the student seem to be, what's resonating with the student. And if the student said they had a terrible experience, I'll go in there and try to figure out like, okay, where does it look like it went wrong, like what happened, what could we have done to make this go better. And so I spent a lot of time sort of developing kind of like a scheme of like what makes things work well, and some pitfalls, and I spent a lot of hours doing that as far as I know nobody else has done so far, and so I had kind of a unique perspective to offer for that.
So you were able to get that position, or you were able to get that presentation because of, you think it was because of the extra time that you've put in?
Yeah, I don't know why I got it necessarily. I mean, I brought a lot of things to the meeting before that, the e-tutoring meeting, and some of the people who were at that were also at the conference, and there were some other people who knew me and thought I had some important things to say, or some advice that I could offer that would be meaningful. And so they're like, hey, you should really, really be interested to hear what you have to say about e-tutoring. Would you like to come and present at this conference? It's going to be like an hour talk, and you can pretty much do whatever you want with it. And so I decided that I'd go ahead and do that, and it was a good experience. It was challenging, but I really enjoyed it. And there's things I would have done differently, but overall was pretty good.
I'm really happy that you were able to have that opportunity.
Yeah, it was something that I don't think a lot of people will get at this stage in their life, and so I was really thankful that they offered me that chance.
It sounds like you're really passionate about e-tutoring.
Yeah, I think it's important. I think the longer we go, the more that education is going to rely on, it's going to have, online components to it, and I think the sooner that we can catch up with education, I think the better it's going to be. I mean, so many people spend so much time on their phones or on social media or on the internet or interacting with some sort of media device, and then education, it's largely still, if you got a good private school, you might have more technology, but for the most part, it's like kids are supposed to sit in desks and, get lectured at and get talked at, and that may or may not be a good thing, but I think that it's definitely disconnected from what they're experiencing outside of that, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing. But I think it's good to at least offer e-tutoring in particular is what I can do, so that's what I'm doing. But
What else would you like to tell me about e-tutoring?
well, I mean that's mostly what's been going on with e-tutoring. I mean, it's been growing for the last couple of years, as I think makes sense. It kind of word has to get out there, and people have a lot of misconceptions about tutoring in general, particularly about e-tutoring. They think it's going to be, like some, nerdy little kid sitting at his computer, like, I'm taking it. He's got these big, huge, glasses on, and they're not going to be able to communicate. Is one of the major concerns that students tell me. Is they're like, well, I just don't think I'm going to be able. They're concerned about being able to use the technology in general, like to interface with it, or to be able to just communicate. They think the communication is just going to be typing, and they're, doing math is hard, and then trying to type it on a computer back and forth. Basically, it's sort of like emailing it.
Right.
Is what they think it's going to be like. It's just so. It's really intimidating for a lot of students, and that's why they don't use it. So it's kind of some misconceptions about that. But
Well, I mean, I can say I have used e-tutoring at one point. It wasn't for math though, so it's not exactly a perfect comparison. But I know I was working on my paper for a research class, and it was I was definitely more worried about it than I should have been going in. So I can see how that would be a problem.
Yeah, so just trying to help alleviate students' concerns about that, and trying to just well, just try it, just
Right.
I understand you're concerned about it. I understand, it's kind of a new thing for a lot of people, but just try it and see how it is. And then some people resist, and some people give it a try. I mean, not everybody loves it, but some people it definitely works for. So it's good.
Well, I've really enjoyed hearing your experiences with frustrating students and good students, and just hearing about e-tutoring in general. As we close up, I just wanted to know if there was anything else that you'd like to say.
I think we covered it. If I keep going, we're gonna be in 2 hours in by the time we're done. So I think we're probably about good for now.
Well, I just want to say that I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about all of this. Really enjoyed hearing about all of it. How does it feel for you hearing me say those things to you?
It's nice that somebody's like, oh yeah, like I'll listen and then give some feedback, and it's kind of like, oh, someone's actually paying attention, which is nice because people don't always pay attention when you talk, so that's nice to.
I'm really glad that you also got a good experience out of this, and you enjoyed talking to me as well. I would also really love to hear about this more in the future. If you'd like to talk to me about it, I'd be super open for that. I just want to say thank you.
No, well, thank you for taking the time and interviewing me and listening to what I have to say.
Absolutely.